on the bumper, but the bumper glass didn't match the glass, the cocktail glass, the cup. Nothing on the bumper matched the cup. One piece on the bumper matched a piece found the second week in February by the former trooper Michael Proctor. So he found a piece at 34 Fairview, allegedly, that matched a piece on the glass, on the bumper. Nothing else on the bumper matched the cup. Mm-hmm. What is the other breaking event of glass? There's multiple sources of glass.
Folks, she's about to testify to an ointment tin full of trace transfer evidence that was scraped off the hoodie and the T-shirt of Officer John O'Keefe. And she's going to talk about the sizes, all right? And we're going to show you what it looked like. And I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you what should have happened with the initial analysis by the forensic scientists too that did the scrapings before the shirt was scrapings. And I'm going to throw the bullshit flag on the field about these pieces. Okay, let's run it.
Clear piece of plastic.
And is that a tin that it's encased in at the time that you receive it?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 9355. And what is this, Ms. Hanley?
So this is a photo of the clear piece of plastic that was within that tin.
Okay. And this was recovered from the shirt, from the hoodie. Go ahead.
Hoodie, yeah, from the hoodie.
Look at the size of that. Okay.
This just a bit.
Now, do you see fibers in here, folks? Do you see foreign fibers and possible hairs in here? Because I sure do.
Yeah.
Right. And I would like to know what kind of testing were done on those things. Could there be dog hair in there? Could there be human hair? Could there be fibers from somebody else's clothing?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is under the microscope, correct?
No, it's not under the microscope.
So this is just a photograph?
It's just a photograph. You see the letters that are written there? That's not microscopic. Okay. So that's just a close-up of the debris that was the trace transfer evidence that was allegedly found on this hoodie. Now,
poor Dave says no testing whatsoever on any of this.
Well, here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. First, you're telling me that Proctor and Sergeant Urey collected these commingled shirts from the floor of the emergency room and threw it together in one bag with all of this material on the outer garment, right? On the outer garments, right? And then brought that bag back to the district attorney's office and went into a quote unquote evidence room of some kind, laid out paper on the floor, and then placed these wet items of clothing on the paper for 6 days to dry, and then repackage the clothing at some point in time. We still don't know when that occurred. And then weeks later, deliver this to the laboratory for them to conduct analysis of, and all this stuff stayed on that clothing.
Yeah, that's hogwash.
What happened to the original bags that were from the hospital when it was transported and back to the district attorneys and left out on the floor? They didn't reuse those bags, right? Did they check the bags first to make sure nothing fell off the clothes and into that bag before? Because if the clothing was saturated and wet, as they say it was, then the bag would have been wet and it would have been compromised. So you're not reusing that bag. Did they look in the bag first to see if there's any trace transfer in it and or save that bag and package it up and submit that bag with this, the clothing in new packaging? No. Did they package it the way that I taught you all how to package it? No. Okay, because again, it went to the lab, the two shirts commingled together in one bag. Now, when that bag got there, the analyst said she examined the contents of the bag. The analyst said she photographed the front of the shirt. Now, a lot of this you could see with your naked eye. But if she should have photographed it. And if she's seen these hairs and fibers with her naked eye, then she should have put scales down next to it and photographed it.
But she didn't.
We didn't see those photos. Or she should have then done an alternate light source examination on the UV wavelength. And then any foreign hairs and fibers may fluoresce. And then you photograph those areas, long range, medium range, and close-ups with the UV filter, so that you can capture the fluorescence of these hairs and fibers. And then you do a tape lift to collect them, not a tweezer, a tape lift, and collect this stuff, okay? Also, you should have used infrared photography as well when examining the clothing. So, because you'll get a color contrast, and bits of evidence like this will come out. You can see some of them are quite tiny and may be difficult to see with the naked eye, but that doesn't change the fact that you should have documented all of this instead of hanging the cloth up on a hanger and using a metal spatula and scraping it down onto paper on your desk. How do you know you're not sending this stuff flying everywhere? Okay. A tape lift or the vacuum method would have been the better choice to lift this stuff. And so in here, you see what appears to be tiny broken pieces of plastic, a red plastic and clear plastic that may be associated with the tail light, but and later you're going to get testimony that actually says that. But where's all this documentation? How come the jury hasn't seen all of these documentation of this stuff in place on the article of clothing? It's not as if that can't occur.
Yeah.
I've done it numerous times with photography, and you can take macro photography and get in closer with scales. You could take examination quality photographs. There's so many different ways of documenting all of this.
But Ed, are we surprised that nothing has been done the right way here? And
Yeah, but I would expect more from a certified lab.
You would think that you'd get more out of her, but she was just another.
Well, I mean, this is what she was given. She didn't collect this. The documentation and the collection was the analyst before her. And that person should have done what I just described. Okay. All right. Again, now, does anybody believe that this is just sitting on this cloth? You're looking at a micrograph, which is a photograph taken through a microscope of the trace transfer evidence that was scraped off of the hoodie and the T-shirt of John O'Keefe at the laboratory. And you're seeing fibers, you're seeing shards of plastic, red and clear plastic, and all manner of other types of material that has not been identified or classified.
This is a photo that I took under a microscope of the red plastic pieces that I noted within the debris.
Okay, so this is your micrograph, and that looks about, she said it was, some of the debris, the largest one was like 1/8 of an inch. So that's visible to the naked eye.
Tons of hairs and fibers in here, and wow, all intertwined. Here, here, here. Here, going through the backs, underneath.
And remember, folks, that tail light, none of it is made with glass. There is no glass. It's 100% polycarbonate and plastics. There is no bulbs. They're LEDs. Okay, so there is no glass.
Now, from your comparison of starting with the clear plastic from the debris from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing. From your comparative analysis of that clear plastic to the clear plastic from item 3-1, the taillight, what did you conclude?
So the clear plastic from the debris was found to be consistent in color and instrumental properties to the clear plastic from the taillight. So accordingly, the clear plastic from the debris could have originated from the clear plastic from the taillight or from another source with the same characteristics.
All right, can we stop it here?
And with reference.
So she can't say it's she can't say that it's definitively from that taillight plastic. Here's another thing what she says. She says instrumental analysis. Well, what the FTIR does, and what she says, it creates a spectrum. Yes, it does create a spectrum. And it gives you, what it does is it does chemical analysis. So it's giving you the chemical composition of the material. Okay, so it's identifying the various chemicals that are present in that particular piece of plastic. But it's kind of disingenuous the way she says that. I mean, she should say, based upon the FTIR chemical analysis, it appears to have the same peaks and valleys, the same chemicals in both samples. Okay, suggesting that they're made of the same materials and could have come from the same source. Because this is class characteristic evidence, not individualistic. That's why she can't say that this plastic that's allegedly found in John O'Keefe's hoodie came specifically from that taillight. Okay? So, but again, look how long Proctor had possession of the vehicle, the taillight, and the clothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people had questions with this bar graph. Ed, can you explain what
That's the spectral analysis. Okay. So those little peaks and valleys are the various chemicals that it's identifying in the makeup of the polycarbonate here.
Accordingly, plastic from 7-18.18 could have originated from the clear plastic from item 3-1 or from another source with the same characteristics.
And Ms. Hanley, when you're comparing these two, as far as the data that you receive, what is it specifically that you're looking at in your comparison as far as the data is concerned?
So when I'm comparing the spectra, I'm looking at the peaks in each sample to determine if they are consistent or not consistent.
So folks,
And if
I teach people how to use FTIR technology. And in fact, Ron came to one of my training courses and I showed him our portable field FTIR device. It's also a Raman device, Raman spectrometer as well. And so I teach people this. Now, normally how I've seen these spectrographs produced for court is you have the known source and then you have the suspect source, and they're color coded and they will overlap them to show you the alignment of the peaks and valleys. So, I don't particularly care for this mode of comparison. I like the color-coded overlay to show you how all of these peaks and valleys are aligning, and now typically what happens also in the FTIR is we have a library of all the chemicals. And so it tells us what it is.
Quick question about that. In your inspection of that taillight, it's true, is it not, that is manufactured entirely of plastic or plasticine pieces? There is no glass in that taillight, correct?
I have to check my notes. I don't think I noted any glass.
Okay. So in other words, you didn't note any glass inherent in the manufacture of that taillight. It's basically plastic.
Yeah, I think most of the parts were plastic. I'm not 100% sure if the entire thing was plastic. There may have been other material, but portions were plastic.
But you certainly didn't see any glass inherent in the manufacture process.
I'd have to double check my notes, but I don't think I did.
Okay.
All right, let me just jump in here.
Why don't you?
Go ahead, Ed.
Typically, defense attorneys don't ask a question they don't already know the answer to. Okay, so he knows there's no glass in this taillight per Toyota.
Just wants her to say it, and she doesn't.
Well, she's going to look in her notes, and she's going to come to the conclusion that she has no glass in her notes.
Yeah, it's like pulling teeth for sakes alive. Correct. It's with every witness. Every witness.
Now, while she's reading this, I got to tell you, when she was on direct, and they kept referring to each of these individual items as 3-2, 3-1, 3-3, 7-12, 7-14. That's not how you do this, folks. You just confuse the jury. Well, yeah, okay, 7-12 is 6 pieces. You should just say it's 6 pieces of glass.
So I did not make any notation that I noted portions that were glass.
Ed, your point is really good. Continue with that.
It confuses the jury when you start doing shit like that, keep it. The premise you always need to do in courts is keep it simple, stupid. But you don't want to talk down to the jury. You want to educate the jury, but you don't want to insult them. But when the prosecutor is asking questions, well, what the hell is 7? What is 3-2? What is 3-3? And where did it come from? They have no clue, right? They have no clue. But later on cross, you're going to see here, Mr. Jackson puts up this demonstrative display that just nails it.
If you keep it in layman's terms where everybody can understand it, it comes across so much better because the jury gets to absorb it. You don't lose them because all of this technical talk, they don't know what it is. They don't know. So to keep it as basic as possible is best, but it doesn't always happen.
Great.
So, Mr. Lally.
Final point before we get into the.
Mr. Lally, the point you right here, but that's the point. They want to confuse the jury. Well, that's typically not the prosecutor's job, right? It's usually the defense that wants to confuse the jury, and the prosecutors want to make the points. But it seems like this world is bizarro and upside down and backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Bizarro 101.
The actual analysis on any of the glass. I want to shift gears to just the glass material that you analyzed and that you looked at and you inspected. You saw no blood, no skin, no biological material, no tissue, human tissue or otherwise, on any of those pieces that you inspected, did you?
Upon examination of those items, making observations of those types of material, that's not my area of expertise. I don't think I noted anything that was maybe consistent with that.
All right, so here's a prime example.
You're not in the.
She knows what biological materials look like under the microscope. All right, she's got degrees in forensic science. She knows what this looks like. Right? It's a simple yes or no answer. There's no reason to get into all of this other stuff. Did you see it or didn't you see it? We didn't ask you if it was your area of expertise or whether you conducted the analysis on it. He just asked you, when you were examining these things, did you see it?
Right.
Yes or no? There's no reason for all the rest.
Everybody, so.
If this wasn't Bizarro World, this is what the prosecution should have done, okay? But the defense is doing it, right? Because as our to clarify exactly what's being matched to what and what isn't matching anything, and this is such a great cross-examination utilizing this for demonstrative purposes. And the jury's getting 100%.
Right. It's making it clear and concise for the jury.
That's right.
And that's what's important here. And that's what makes it brilliant.
Things one by one. Looking at starting with the bottom glass, category 2.
That's correct.
And
Apparently they didn't analyze C and D.
some matches in these 9 items. 6 of them. A, B, C, D, F, and K, correct?
Yes.
But what those match, Ms. Hanley, with a cup, nothing on the bumper, correct?
Correct.
And these pieces in 712 were found on the road in front of the Albert's house, not where the cup was, which was on the lawn.
By Buchanan.
Yes, by Sergeant Urey. This defies logic and credulity that hair that was found on the back of the vehicle and those pieces of glass that were found on the bumper, just resting on the bumper, not embedded in it, okay, just rented on a vertical surface, 90-degree surface, resting on top of it, survived being on that bumper and on that vehicle after the prosecution's alleged impact with John O'Keefe in front of the Albert's house, drove back to John O'Keefe's house with that car and in a nor'easter blizzard, right, allegedly, and stayed on that bumper, puts the car in the garage, then backs out of the car, in the morning to and hits John O'Keefe's car, and then drives in the snow to McCabe's house, and then drives back to John's house and leaves the car there, and then later on comes back to the car and drives to her house, which is over 30 miles away on the highway, where the car is finally collected by Proctor and Sergeant Urey and put on a flatbed truck and then driven back on the highway back to the Canton Police Department, then put into the Sallyport garage, and we watch the snow melt from the roof and come down the sides and run over the area where the hair is and run over where the glass was on the bumper. And that glass and that hair managed to survive and stay in place for that entire scenario I just gave you.
Yeah. It's
Does
just
that sound reasonable to anybody?
absolutely effing not.
The laws of physics do not apply in Canton.
What do you guys think so far in the trial? I can't wait till the defense starts bringing on some of their people. It's going to be, but they're saying that the Commonwealth should be done next week. Do you think, Ed?
Well, who's left? They're not bringing the plow operator. They're not bringing in Higgins. They're not bringing in Albert. They're not bringing in Jen's husband. So it's only the accident reconstruction that I can think of, unless they have some, I mean, we don't have the list. It's not many people left, so they could wrap up next week, maybe 1 or 2 days with this accident reconstruction, maybe 3, and then it's on to the defense. But I say what? I tell you what, the defense has done such a tremendous job. You know, there is so much reasonable doubt here